there, my name is Bandy, and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today it is Friday, so we're here with a rant or review. Today we're going to be reviewing a book that is a little bit older than the ones that I've done in the past, but I have so much to say about it. And that is Trust Exercise by Susan Choi. This is a book that won a National Book Award back in 2019, I believe. Trust Exercises is what I would dub experimental fiction. This is told in a way that is a bit unusual, a little bit unique, and isn't really something that I've seen before. That is definitely super interesting and probably the highlight of the book. But before we really get into critiquing this and breaking it down, let's talk about what this book is about. Essentially, this is a book that is told in 3 parts. Each part kind of plays off the previous part, and it seems that the goal of each part is to make us question the reliability of the narrators. The first part heavily focuses on a group of teenagers at a performing arts school and the relationships between the teenagers, and also the relationships between the teenagers and the adults who are supposed to be in charge of them. It is definitely a bit questionable at times. And the second part of the story kind of plays off that first part, and so does the third part. It's really hard to explain how exactly without destroying the main focus of the novel, which is this twist that is created in the experimental format. The main theme throughout this book is trust. Obviously the book is titled Trust Exercises, but trust reappears multiple times throughout the stories. So first, and the heaviest amount of trust is between the writer and the reader. We're supposed to be able to trust what the author is putting on the pages. There's also the trust between the children and their teachers, the children and other children, trust between the performers and the audience. Trust is a heavy theme. It keeps getting revisited throughout the story in many different ways. And then the second theme is the transition from childhood to adulthood and sort of this loss of innocence. We get to see the children in the first part of the story really losing their innocence. They are no longer kids. They're crossing into a world where they're almost adults, and they're kind of struggling with their place at points. So we see that theme especially in the beginning of the story. One of the main pros about this book is the experimental format. So I have never seen a format like this book is formatted in, and each portion of the book kind of makes you wonder about the previous portion and what you've read, and that is a really unique experience. I've never had a book kind of make me question things the way that this book did. I also really appreciated the way that they stick to the theme. Trust is, as I said, something that permeates the entire story in many different ways. It's layered throughout, and I thought that was really clever the way that was used. That being said, I have way more cons for this book than I have for pros. I struggled so bad with the first section of this book, which takes up a good 50% of this book. And it's interesting because after I read this book, I was sitting there going, did I get this? Did I miss something? Is this book too smart for me? Am I just not the right reader for this? And so I went and looked at other people's reviews, and almost everybody said the same thing, whether it was the New Yorker, the LA Times, all of these big literary critics were basically saying the same thing. The first half of the book, which is that first part, is so hard to get through. It is extremely trying. I actually almost DNF'd this book because I found the first part so pointless. It is literally teenagers having sex, and it's not even teenage appropriate sex. There's no awkward fumblings or teenagers figuring it out together. This is kind of weird, kinky, awkward sex to be reading about for 14-year-olds. And then there's these creepy teachers that are involved in some of the sex, and adults sleeping with kids essentially. And it's a really uncomfortable portion of the book. And honestly, had I not known that this was an experimental fiction and that there was some big twist coming that everybody's been raving about, I probably would have put it down. But I slogged through it just because I knew that at some point it was supposed to make more sense. And I will say that when the twist does arrive, it does make more sense, but I don't think that you should hate reading a book for the first half just to get to something that's interesting or shocking. I could see how a lot of people wouldn't even find out that there's a twist in this book because they would be so appalled by the first part that they might put it down. I also found that the characterization of the teenagers was kind of a weird characterization. They seem hyper mature, they seem it's just all over the place. I didn't find this realistic to school at all. And I mean, granted, I'm in my mid-30s, so it's been a while since I was in high school. Maybe I am just, woefully out of touch at this point in my life. That's a complete possibility. However, to me, it didn't seem like this author was really writing students. It seemed like she was writing people that were mature beyond their years, and I felt that the way that the teachers were written, it just the whole theme seemed very, very extreme. And then this book does get really meta. It like there's a book inside a book inside a book, and I felt like that was like almost a little bit too much. I get that the point of this book is to be meta and to explore like literature and trust between writers and readers, but it just sometimes I think that people overcomplicate their message. I think that might have been the case here, that in trying to do all of these different things, it just kind of overcomplicated it. And then at the end, it left me feeling like this was just a really pretentious book, honestly. I think that what the author was aiming to do was kind of cool. I can see what her point was in formatting the book the way that she did. And I do think that there were some parts of that were cool, but overall it just felt really pretentious. It was really, really prosy and literary. And then with this experimental format, I guess somebody liked it because it did receive a National Book Award. I think that it probably received that award because of the experimental format more than it being a good or enjoyable book. I will say that the critique of trust is pretty interesting, and the depth that it explores trust is pretty interesting. And that's probably, worthy of some praise. But just the overall structure of the book for me, because it was so hard to get through that first half, anything cool that happened in the second half, it just, by the time that I got there, it was so over it. I was so past done with it that I didn't even really care that much. And I could see, like I said, a lot of people losing out on the cool experimental part of it because, who wants to slog up the side of, a mountain to get there? And that's the way this book feels. The first portion of this feels exactly like climbing up a mountain like this, but on a fire road, not in the mountains, not in the forest where it's like beautiful and you're enjoying a nice stroll up the mountain, like a fire road on a dry, dusty mountain with no view and nothing to see, and you just never feel like you're gonna ever get there. And that's how this felt. It felt very much like you were never ever gonna get to the point. And then when you finally get to the point, you're just like, oh, for fuck's sake, I don't even care about this stupid book anymore. So for me, this was a 2-star rating. This is my lowest book of the year so far. I know we're only a month in, but I rarely rate books 2 stars. So for me, I appreciated, again, the creativity and the intent and the doing something different, but I didn't appreciate the book overall. So for me, if you were gonna ask me if I would recommend this story, I would tell you to skip it. Of course, if you're really into experimental literature and you like really prosy, kind of super meta explorations of heavy themes, then maybe this might be for you. And certainly there are going to be people that like this. I definitely am not one of them. So that's my review of Trust Exercises. It didn't work, so better luck next time. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up and comment down below what is the most disappointing book you've read recently. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video. And that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks for joining. Bye.